Hello, English learners, and welcome to another great podcast with English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
And today we have another really great lesson for you, elementary lesson.
That's right, and it's another lesson about money.
We have no money here at English Pod. We are in debt here.
In debt.
Yes.
Okay,
In debt.
debt.
So what does that mean? Why don't you tell us?
If I owe you money, I'm in debt.
In debt.
In
Yes.
fact, I think I am in debt to you.
You owe me $2.50 for a Coke Zero today.
That's true.
All right. Okay, so let's get started. Let's take a look at our vocabulary preview.
Vocabulary preview.
We have two words today in our vocabulary preview, and the first one is recession.
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 So, recession. Everyone's talking about it right now, and what does it mean?
I don't know. That's your job. I don't know. I really don't know. Why don't you tell me, Erica? Because this isn't my topic for today.
Okay. Recession is a period of time when the economy of a country is doing badly.
In a recession, the country is making less money.
That's true. So maybe we can give a few examples of things that happen in a recession to show the meaning of this a little bit better.
Right. So, for example, in a recession, many people lose their jobs.
Because companies might close or go bankrupt.
Exactly. And also, people start spending less money.
That's true. And the stock prices of companies fall pretty
fall.
Yeah, they fall a lot, hey?
Yeah. And that's what's going on now in the United States.
Very true.
Okay, so let's take a look at our second word, and it has to do with recession. It's broke.
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 I'm broke.
Broke. It means that you have no money. You're broke.
I'm broke.
Right, so these are our two words for vocabulary preview today, and you're going to hear them in the dialogue.
This dialogue is about a man who is in debt. He's broke. Let's find out what happens.
Hello, I'm here to see Mr. Corleone. Right this way, sir. Johnny, what can I do for you? Mr. Corleone, I'm really sorry to trouble you, but I need your help. Anything for you, Johnny. Your father was like a brother to me. Well, sir, you see, this recession has hit me pretty hard. I lost my job and I'm in a lot of debt. I see. Yeah, you know, I've got credit card bills, car payments, I've got to pay my mortgage, and on top of all that, I have to pay my son's college tuition. So you're asking for a loan?
Other examples?
Well, I just thought maybe you could help me out. What? At a time like this? I'm broke too, you know. You're not the only one who's been hit by the recession. I lost half my money and the stock market crashed. Go on!
Okay, so that was a bit unexpected.
Yeah, that was certainly strange. He didn't go to the bank to ask for money, did he?
No, he went to the mob, and the mob is broke.
Oh no, you know it's a bad recession when even the mob runs out of money.
All right, so why don't we start by looking at our language takeaway?
Language takeaway.
All right, so for today's language takeaway, we have 4 words from the dialogue, which we think are really important.
Yes, so why don't we start with the first one? Loan.
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 So Erica, tell us about a loan. What is a loan?
Okay, when you borrow money, you get a loan.
A loan, yes. Not to be confused with alone, like by myself.
No, so this is L-O-A-N.
Loan.
Right.
Okay, great. Let's take a look at our second word, mortgage.
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 Now, this is very common. I'm sure many of you have mortgages. What is a mortgage?
A mortgage is a type of a loan. Basically, it's a loan that helps you to buy a house.
A house or a property.
Yeah. So this is a funny word. I mean, there's this strange mortgage with a T.
Yeah, it has a T in it, but you don't pronounce it. You say mortgage. Mortgage.
So not mortgage.
Not mortgage.
Mortgage.
Mortgage. Yeah. I had trouble spelling that one for this lesson, so I learned it well now.
Okay. Let's move to our third word today.
Hit me pretty hard.
Hit me pretty hard.
Hit me pretty hard.
Hit me pretty hard. I think we have some examples that will help us understand this phrase.
Example 1.
My divorce hit me pretty hard. I'm so depressed.
Example 2. This cold has hit me pretty hard. I've been in bed for a week. Example 3.
The news of Fluffy's death hit me pretty hard. I've been crying for days.
Okay, so that's a lot clearer.
Yeah.
Great. Why don't we take a look at our last word for language takeaway?
Tuition.
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 So this is the money you have to pay to your school so that you can study there.
Right. Usually it's in college, right? Or university.
Yeah, but sometimes in some countries you have to pay tuition for public school.
Okay, great. So it's time to listen to our dialogue again, and it's going to be slower so we can listen to all the words that we just talked about.
Hello, I'm here to see Mr. Corleone.
Right this way, sir. Charlie, what can I do for you?
Mr. Corleone, I'm really sorry to trouble you, but I need your help.
Anything for you, Charlie. Your father was like a brother to me.
Well, sir, you see, this recession has hit me pretty hard. I lost my job, and I'm in a lot of debt.
I see.
Yeah, you know, I've got credit card bills, car payments. I've got to pay my mortgage, and on top of all that, I have to pay my son's college tuition.
So you're asking for a loan?
Well, I just thought maybe you could help me out.
What? At a time like this? I'm broke too, you know. You're not the only one who has been hit by the recession. I lost half my money in the stock market crash. Go on, get out of here.
Okay, so I think a lot of the key language we just talked about is a lot more clear now. But you know, I also noticed some really interesting phrases in this dialogue.
Yes, I did too. So let's start with Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder is a tool that we use to help you sound more native.
Right, so you can sound more natural when you're speaking.
So we take a really common phrase and we show you some great natural ways of expressing that same idea.
Exactly, and today we have 3 of these examples. Let's start with the first one.
So this phrase we use when we want to ask somebody, "Can I help you?"
What can I do for you? What can I do for you?
Yeah, that sounds really, really polite and really natural.
Right, so instead of saying, can I help you? Or, I don't know, what do you need? We can just say, what can I do for you?
Exactly.
Great.
So let's move to our second phrase. This phrase we use when we need something, when we want to say, I'm sorry to bother you.
Or, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay, let's listen.
I'm really sorry to trouble you. I'm really sorry to trouble you.
I'm sorry to trouble you. This phrase might be a little bit more difficult to understand how it's used, but we've got some examples.
Yes, so let's listen.
Example 1.
Can I trouble you for a moment? I just need you to sign this form for me.
Example 2. I'm sorry to trouble you, but may I go home early today? Example 3.
Can I trouble you for a pen? Mine is not working anymore.
Okay, so now let's take a look at our last phrase for Fluency Builder. On top of all that.
On top of all that.
On top of all that.
This is a really useful phrase. Marco, how would you use it?
Well, for example, today I lost my job,
Oh no.
my car got stolen,
Oh my God.
and on top of all that, my girlfriend broke up with me.
That was a terrible day.
It was. But don't worry, you can use this phrase also in a positive way.
That's true. You could say, so today was a really great day. It was my birthday and all my friends came to visit me, and on top of all that, I got 1,000,000 presents.
That is a great day. So you can use on top of all that in this way.
It's like, and also.
And also, yeah.
Yeah. So on top of all that.
So we are ready to listen to our dialogue a third time. We can hear all the words that we just talked about and all the phrases, and you'll definitely be able to understand a lot better now.
Hello, I'm here to see Mr. Corleone. Right this way, sir. Johnny, what can I do for you? Mr. Corleone, I'm really sorry to trouble you, but I need your help. Anything for you, Johnny. Your father was like a brother to me. Well, sir, you see, this recession has hit me pretty hard. I lost my job and I'm in a lot of debt. I see. Yeah, you know, I've got credit card bills, car payments, I've got to pay my mortgage.
Vocabulary
And on top of
preview.
all that, I have to pay my son's college tuition. So you're asking for a loan? Well, I just thought maybe you could help me out. What? At a time like this? I'm broke too, you know. You're not the only one who's been hit by the recession. I lost half my money and the stock market crashed. Go on, get...
Today's dialogue was all about being in debt, right?
Yes.
And different people have different attitudes or different viewpoints on being in debt.
Yes, that's true. For example, in North America and in Canada, it's a really common thing.
Yeah, it's actually almost good to be in debt.
It's more than good, it's necessary to be in debt.
That's right. Unless you have a history of being in debt and regularly paying off your debts, you can't actually borrow money. You can't get a mortgage. You can't get a car loan so you can buy a new car.
Right, that's called a credit history. So you must have a good credit history in order to be able to, like you say, buy a car or buy a house.
Yeah, and you know, the funny thing is, when I was in university, maybe I was 18 years old, the first thing that happened at university was, you know, banks came to our university and started offering you credit cards. So you can get a credit card when you're 18, no problem.
And not only do they offer you credit cards, they give you like free gifts if you sign up for a credit card.
I know they really want you to have a credit card.
Of course, they want you to spend more money. That's the trick.
Yeah, but you know what? It's totally different in Europe, for example. I used to live in Switzerland, and they're really careful with debt. Like, it's a bad thing to be in debt.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's bad to be in debt, definitely.
For example, if I want to have a credit card in Switzerland, and let's say I want to have a limit of 500 francs that I can spend every month, I need to put in my bank account 700 francs before I can even spend that credit card money. So it's totally opposite from North America.
Well, yeah, I mean, in North America, it's crazy the way that people are in debt, and it's showing now with the recession, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So everyone be sure to handle your money carefully. Don't be in debt unless you really, really have to.
Good financial advice from English Pod.
English Pod Financial Advising Service.
Okay, everyone, thanks for listening. Now remember, if you have any questions or comments, please visit our website at englishpod.com.
Right, Erica and I are always there to answer all the questions, and we really like to receive comments and suggestions from all our users, so be sure to go and leave us your comments.
Okay, Marco, it's been fun.
Yes, it has, but sadly we have to go now, so until next time, it's
Goodbye.
bye.
The second paragraph of the dialogue.
Hey everyone, ready for today's deep dive? We're going to be tackling debt and recession. It's something everyone's talking about, right? But let's be real, it can be a little confusing.
It really can be.
Yeah, like what does it all actually mean for you and me?
Exactly.
So today we're going to break it all down, make it super clear.
Sounds good.
And you know what's interesting? We're actually using a podcast episode from an English learning program as our source.
Oh, wow.
I know, right?
Sure.
You wouldn't think it, but they use this whole mobster scenario to explain things, which, believe it or not, makes it really easy to understand.
Using stories and examples is a great way to make complex topics more relatable, that's for sure.
It really is. Okay, so first things first. What exactly is a recession?
Right.
This podcast defines it as like when a country's economy is doing badly and basically it's making less money.
Mm-hmm.
So think about it. Businesses might start making less profit, which can lead to those job losses we hear about. People get nervous and start spending less, and then we see stock prices flowing.
It's a ripple effect, for sure. And those effects can hit pretty close to home, you know?
Oh, absolutely. They even use the phrase "hit me pretty hard" in the podcast to describe how this recession impacts people.
Yeah, like real-life examples.
Yeah, like divorce, health issues, even losing a pet. They mentioned someone losing a pet named Fluffy.
Oh, it's sad.
It is. And, you know, speaking of tough times, they talk about what it means to be broke, basically having no money.
Right.
They even have this part where they talk about the mob boss being broke because of the recession, which I thought was kind of funny.
Preview.
But it shows that no one is immune to this stuff.
Yeah. Times are tough all over.
Exactly. And when money's tight, people often turn to loans, which is another term they break down. Basically, it's borrowing money, right?
Right, but there's so many different types of loans.
Oh, totally. And they actually talk about one in particular that's super common, especially when talking about housing, a mortgage.
Yes. A mortgage is specifically a loan you take out to buy a property, like a house. And fun fact, the T in mortgage is silent.
It is. I always forget that.
Yeah.
But mortgages are a big deal, especially during a recession.
For sure. I mean, if you lose your job, those monthly mortgage payments could become a huge burden.
Definitely. And you know what else they talk about? Tuition.
Yes.
The money you pay for school.
Tuition. Yes. Especially these days when the cost of education is so high.
Exactly. And, you know, a lot of people have to take out loans to afford it. So that adds another layer of financial stress, right?
Absolutely. Student loans can be a real challenge for people, especially when they're just starting out.
So we've got recession, broke, loans, mortgages, and tuition.
Wow. Yeah, when you list it out like that.
I know, right? It's a lot. But hey, at least we're starting to make sense of it all bit by bit.
We are. And you know what I find interesting? How differently we view these things, like debt, depending on where we come from.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And the podcast actually touches on that. They talk about North American and European attitudes towards debt. And it's pretty eye-opening.
I bet. It's amazing how cultural norms can shape our whole outlook on finances. Like in North America, for instance, having good credit history is like a good thing, right?
It's huge here. Like it shows you're responsible.
Exactly. They even encourage you to take on debt,
Other
like credit cards and
examples?
stuff. And as long as you manage it well, it actually helps build your credit score.
It's true. I remember when I first started college, I got bombarded with credit card offers. It was crazy. Like they were practically begging us to get into debt.
Right. Because the way the system works here, your credit history is super important if you want to get a loan later on for bigger things like a house or a car.
Makes sense. But then the podcast talks about Switzerland, and it's totally different there. Like debt is seen as a bad thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they have way stricter rules about getting credit. You really have to prove that you can handle debt before they'll even think about lending you money.
So it's almost like two opposite ways of thinking about money, right? Like one's all about building credit and the other one is all about avoiding debt as much as possible.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, is one way actually better than the other? Like, are there downsides to either approach?
Well, it's a tough question. The North American way, focusing on credit can help the economy grow because people can buy things easier, but it can also lead to a lot of
Vocabulary
debt,
preview.
which can be really hard to get out of, especially if something like a recession hits.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Those credit cards can be helpful in a pinch, but they can also turn into a real burden if you suddenly lose your job or something.
Exactly. The European way, though, might make it harder to get credit, but it encourages people to be more careful with their money and save more. So it's like they're better prepared if something bad happens to the economy.
It's like choosing between being able to buy things now versus being more financially secure in the long run.
Right. And, this all comes back to that recession scenario from the podcast. It really shows how a recession can just throw a wrench in everything.
Totally. Remember that part about the mob boss going broke? That was wild. It just shows that a recession can affect anyone, no matter how rich or powerful they are.
No one is immune, that's for sure.
And it really makes you think about what's important, Like, do we want to buy a bunch of stuff now, even if it means going into debt? Or is it better to be more cautious and save for the future?
It's a big question, and there's no right or wrong answer, I think. It all depends on your own values and goals and your circumstances. And like we were saying, maybe it even depends on what part of the world you're from.
Right. What works in North America might not work in Europe and vice versa.
Yeah.
The important thing is to be aware of those differences and figure out what makes sense for you.
Exactly. And that's where financial literacy comes in. The more we understand about money and how it works, the better decisions we can make. I mean, this podcast is a great starting point, but there's always more to learn.
Totally agree. It's like we're peeling back the layers of an onion here. The more we learn, the more questions we have.
That's so true. It's what makes it so interesting, right?
Absolutely. But hey, before we go too far down that rabbit hole, let's circle back to those cultural differences around debt for a second. The podcast brings up this really interesting point about how these different views could play out on a global scale.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Like, as different cultures interact more and more, especially when it comes to money and finances, how will these different approaches to debt affect things?
Right. Like, will one system eventually win out, or will we see some kind of blend of all these different ideas?
It's fascinating to think about, isn't it? It's like a global financial dance-off.
It really is. Like, will we all end up on the same page about debt eventually, or will we always have these different approaches clashing?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Maybe we'll see a little bit of both, some kind of global compromise where everyone takes a little from each system.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But it could also go the other way, right? Like maybe these different approaches will just keep bumping up against each other as the world gets more interconnected.
Yeah, and that could definitely lead to some interesting challenges. But I think the important thing is that we at least understand these different perspectives.
Oh, totally. It makes us think twice about our own assumptions about money and debt.
Exactly. And, it reminds us that there's not just one right way to do things when it comes to finances. It's all about what works best for you in your own situation.
So true. And I think that's a great takeaway for our listeners today. Don't just assume that the way you've always thought about money is the only way.
Right. Be open to different ideas, do your research, and make sure you're making the best choices for yourself.
Well said. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into debt, recession, and all the cultural stuff that shapes how we think about money. Until next time.